Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are ranking winners of the Booker Prize. In honour of the International Booker Prize winner being announced last week, I thought it'd be really fun to go through and see out of all of the books that I've read for both the International Booker and the Booker Prize and see which ones I would recommend to you and give them a ranking within themselves. I thought this would be just a really fun video to do to see also which one out of the two prizes I actually end up preferring, and also to see out of the prizes themselves which one do I think is the most deserved, the winner of the winners. So that is what we're going to do today, and we're going to start off doing the International Booker Prize, and then there'll be some chapter breaks if you want to just skip forward to when I'm talking about just the Booker Prize. But the International Booker Prize actually has only had nominated books that have won since 2016. So I thought I would go through all of the years, tell you if I've read them, and if I have read them, how I would rank that book within a kind of set list that we're going to be talking about. So for the International Booker Prize, there's only been nominated books that have won since 2016. Previous to that, it was more similar to the Nobel Prize for Literature, where an author was nominated for their entire body of work. I've read a couple of books from the pre-2016 winners, but I don't think that's fair to kind of include within a ranking because you're comparing a whole body of work to like one book for post-2016. So we're going to go in reverse chronological order, starting from the winner that was announced last week and going all the way back to 2016. And I'm going to tell you my thoughts on each of these different books and whether I think you should read them and which one I'm going to vote as the winner of the winners. So starting from the year 2025, the winner for this year's International Booker Prize was Heartlamp by Banu Mushtaq, and this was translated by Deepa Bashti, and this is a collection of 12 short stories from women that are all living in Karnataka, which is a southern Indian state. I was really happy when this was announced as the winner. It was a little bit of a surprise win for me personally, and I think for a few other people they were shocked that this one ended up winning, but I was actually really pleased because I really enjoyed this book. If you do want to see my entire thoughts on this as the winner of the International Booker Prize, I did a whole video where I was reacting to the announcement and ranking all of the other ones in the shortlist as well, but I was really happy that this did win. Particularly, I think that this one gave me the biggest kind of like notice about how it was being translated, and I enjoyed the translator's note at the end of this book about how the translator went about translating it, because it kept a lot of the feel of the original language and very like choice words were chosen not to be translated, and like even the phrasing of certain sentences, it just really made me feel like steeped within the community in which we were reading from and the culture of this place. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it because I'm not usually one to love short stories, although I've been enjoying a few different collections recently, so I'm not even sure that I can say that anymore. These are all focusing on following different women in these 12 different stories, and a lot of the situations that are being depicted are really difficult. They are women who are kind of going up against a lot in the world, and I find that that can be sometimes a little bit tiring to read about, and I know that probably sounds quite heartless, but just for me, I do read a lot of women's stories that are really dark and really tragic. But there was something about this book in which that I really enjoyed these characters, and there was a certain lightness and a certain hopeful tone as well. I'm gonna rank this in my number 2 spot, so make of that what you will, but this book was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed reading these stories. I do think that a lot of the stories were a little bit difficult to get into very initially because a lot of the names kind of are really thrown at you very fast, and like the family structures like take quite a minute to get your head around them, but overall I really enjoyed, and this is going to be in the spot number 2. So going back to last year, 2024, the winner was Kairos, which was a Greek book. I have not read this one, and it's actually not on my TBR, so tell me if that's a mistake and if I should be putting it on there. But going back again to 2023, the winner was Time Shelter. This is a Bulgarian book, and I read this for my Reading Around the World challenge because I've not read any other books from Bulgaria before. This one I used to own and I don't actually own anymore, which kind of tells you how I felt about it. This was a literary speculative fiction book, and I really thought that I would love it a lot more than I did, especially because it won the International Booker, and I really had high hopes for it, and I think that's what kind of let me down in the end. This is a book all about a man who basically meets this other man who is determined to make these time shelters for people that are suffering with dementia and they feel like a certain displacement in time. They feel like they kind of don't have any new memories. They are from a different time. He makes these replica rooms and these different spaces for representing different decades, so that these people with these like memory issues can go and feel much more comfortable and at home. That's just kind of like one of the initial aspects of this book, because the way in which it moves on from there and the way that it stretches out this idea is really, really interesting, but also it didn't make the most enjoyable read for me. It was quite a difficult and dense read. I felt like I was constantly kind of missing a lot of context about like different European countries, political systems and like histories. There was a lot that was kind of expected that you would have as given knowledge to be able to kind of play around with that knowledge, if you know what I mean. And I just felt like I was kind of on a back foot with reading this book. I did finish it, but I didn't love it. So I'm putting this in position number 4. Going back to 2023, the winner was Tomb of Sand. This is another Indian book and I have not read this one because I believe it is an absolute door wedge. I'm kind of just intimidated of this book because of how absolutely massive it is, but I've heard amazing things about this as well. But also, is it amazing enough that I'm going to sit there and read it? It's so long. So we'll see. If you convince me to read this, then I will do it. But it's a very long book. In 2021, the winner was At Night All Blood is Black. This is another one that I haven't actually read, but obviously it is on my TBR. Honestly, it's on my TBR still because I'm scared of how sad this book is going to be. I've heard like amazing things, but I've also heard that it's completely devastating. This book is translated from French and I believe it is following 2 men who are fighting in a war, and I think it just takes place over the course of one night perhaps, but apparently it's just utterly heartbreaking and I just get really scared when things are described in that way because I'm a wimp and a wuss and I just want to have a good time when I'm reading a book and not have my heart broken into a million pieces. But it's on my TBR. I'll read it at some point. It's not very long. I don't think it would take me too long, but yeah, I can't actually rank this one within the rest of the ranking, but maybe I will one day. In 2020, the winner was The Discomfort of Evening. And this book, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know how I feel about this book. I used to own it. I don't anymore. That should tell you a clue. But this is one of the most uncomfortable books I've ever read in my life, and this I read and I don't think I'll ever forget it. So this is a story all about a girl who is living on this very rural farm with her family. One day she's really worried that her dad's gonna kill her pet rabbit, so she makes a wish that instead that he takes her brother away. And then after a very tragic accident, you are following this family's grief and kind of a also coming of age story for this young girl. And it's the whole ethos behind this book is forcing you as a reader to sit in the feeling of discomfort, and it does not let up, and it does everything it can to make sure you are physically feeling discomfort in your body. And I think it achieved that. It achieved that goal so well. Does that mean I like this book? No, I hated this book. I hated reading it. Do I think it should have won a prize? Then yes, I actually do. I'm not mad that this won the International Booker Prize, and I think that a lot of people would read this and think that it's an absolute work of art. I just cannot recommend it, and it's going to be at the very bottom of my ranking because oh my god, this book was intense. Next up, in 2019, the winner was Celestial Bodies. This is a book from Oman, and I also read it for my Reading Around the World challenge. This book says it's about these 3 sisters and kind of the different relationships they have with their husbands and their families, but I think I would actually have enjoyed this book a lot more if it was following the 3 sisters more. Not that I didn't enjoy it, there were aspects that I really liked, but it's a lot more focused on the men in these women's lives, and there's a lot more of a POV chapters from these men than I initially thought going in. I enjoyed reading about Oman, and especially in the time that this book is written. It's kind of Oman on the verge of a new era. It's kind of a lot about the old and the new, tradition and culture and modernity and that kind of thing. I enjoyed reading all of that. that, and I did learn a lot, but this one is going to be right in the middle of my ranking, so it's going to be sitting at number 3. Not mad that I read it, but I wouldn't force you to go out and read it immediately kind of thing. In 2018, the winner of the International Booker Prize was Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. This one is on my TBR. It's on my imminent TBR. I'm supposed to read it this month and I have not yet started it. I'm slightly intimidated by this book, to be honest. I am convinced that I'm going to love it, and because I've loved both of the other books that I've read by Olga Tokarczuk. But I'm also scared because these books, like, they take a lot of your brain power. And I can't even actually describe to you like what this book is about, because the back doesn't make much sense to me at all. And usually also when I do read the back of these books, the actual book itself kind of has nothing to do with what's on the back, which I kind of like, to be honest, because I like going in and being constantly surprised. And I know that that's what I'm going to get for this book as well. So this one I'm not going to currently rank because I have not read it yet, but this one is translated from Polish, and I know I'm gonna like it. That's what I'll say. Going back to 2017, the winner was A Horse Walks into a Bar. I've not heard much about this book. I don't know anything about it really. But then we do have in 2016, the first winner of this prize was The Vegetarian by Han Kang. And I absolutely loved this book. This one's going to be at the top of my ranking. This is such an interesting book. This is a South Korean translated book, and I loved so much that it's very steeped in South Korea, so much that it can feel a little bit like foreign if you are a foreign person reading this book, because this book is all about rebellion and kind of a bit of taboo. So the beginning of this story, you're following a woman who's decided to become a vegetarian, which, like, to an outside reader might seem like the most innocuous decision ever, but it has this shockwave effect within her circle, her friends and her family and her husband, about this one decision that she's making to stop eating meat. And then I won't tell you more about where this book goes, but I just absolutely loved it. I was underlining lines throughout. Like, it's very haunting, but it's poetic, but there's like a bit of a mystery confusion kind of like going on, so it really keeps you engaged. Can highly recommend this one, and like I said, it's at the very top of my list for the International Booker Prize. So that's my final ranking for all of the books that I've read for the International Booker Prize. Let me know your ranking if you've read any of these or which ones sound the most interesting to you. But now let's move on and talk about the Booker Prize. This prize has been going on a lot longer. I think since the 60s was maybe the first winner, so we have a lot more books to choose from. But to be honest, proportionally, I've read a lot more of the International Booker because of I just love translated fiction, and looking through and making these two lists, I think I prefer the International Booker a lot more over the Booker. But I think specifically that comes from just comparing the winners of both of the prizes. For the Booker Prize, there's a lot of things that are shortlisted and longlisted that I absolutely love. It's just often the actual one that ends up winning maybe isn't my absolute favourite, but we'll still go through the ones that I have read, and I will still give you a little ranking so that you have a kind of sense of which ones that I would be recommending, and you can compare it to your own ranking if you've read any of these books. And there is probably a good chance that you've read some of these because they are very popular. Instead of going chronologically through this list, which would take far too long, I'm just going to go in reverse order for my own ranking. So we're going to start with my least favourite, that's 1, and then go all the way up to my most favourite winner. And I think that I'm going to make some enemies with this ranking, to be honest. I don't think people are going to agree with me, but that's fine. Reading's subjective. This is only just a bit of fun. But my bottom of all of the ones that I've read, which, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of the 8 books that I've read, I am putting at the very bottom Shuggie Bain. And this one, I just have something against this book. And I got really annoyed when everyone absolutely loved it. And then I spent ages reading it. And then I just thought, what is everyone talking about? I didn't like this book that much at all. To be honest, I did do a bit of ranting when I first finished this book. And now a lot of the details of my reaction have escaped me because it was, I think a couple of years ago now, probably, that I've read this. I think I did talk about it in like a worst books of the year video maybe, because it was even that bad for me. But yeah, I did not enjoy this one at all. For me personally, this is one of those books that just has this like expectation of you feeling really sad throughout, but then doesn't do any of the work to give you an emotional gut punch. This is the story all about a young boy and his mum, and it's set in the 1980s in Scotland, and it's basically about the struggles of this boy growing up. There were certain things that just really like irritated me about the way in which this was written, and I'm gonna have to like get my notes out all about this book, but this is gonna be at the bottom of this list for me. So I'm really sorry if you enjoyed this book, because I did not end up loving this one. And now going all the way back, I want to talk about the winner for 1997. And this is my second least favourite book that has won the Booker Prize, and that is unfortunately The God of Small Things. I'm not going to be popular because of this video. This is another one that everyone absolutely loves, and this one just left me cold, and I don't even know why with this one, honestly. This book is set in Kerala in India, and you are following twin siblings, and basically they are growing up and everything is fine and lovely until their like young cousin arrives, and then something happens and the entire family is kind of shaken forever. This one just felt like there wasn't enough in the book. Even as I'm recalling it now, it feels like it was like there just wasn't enough happening. Maybe it's just my preference for a more plot focused book, because this was very character focused, very slow, very poetic, and so I can see why other people would love this, but there was just not enough going on for me. And like people say, like on the back, like they're saying that it was very funny. I'm like, it didn't make me laugh. Like it didn't make me laugh. And they're saying it's erotic. I'm very confused by what book I read. It didn't have compelling wit and eroticism. I'm so confused. So maybe I need to reread this one, to be honest. I don't know. I didn't like it. This is hard. This is a hard ranking to do. I shouldn't have started at the bottom. I should have started positive, because now everyone's going to be turning this video off saying, what do you mean you didn't like God of Small Things? You're crazy. And maybe I am, to be honest. Maybe I am. Next up, I'm going to talk about the winner for 2022, which was The Seven Moons of Marley Almeida. This is one that I hung on to for a while, but I've just recently unhauled because I enjoyed this book, but it just wasn't all the way for me. This is another kind of like slightly speculative, maybe magical realism book set in Sri Lanka, and you are following Marley Almeida, who has recently died, and he has 7 moons to be able to kind of do his unfinished business, and he is a photographer. So there are these photos that he is trying to make sure get found, but you're also just reflecting on his life and his choices, and he's quite a complicated character, and it's kind of a take on A Christmas Carol, like Marley and Scrooge, but like from the perspective of the ghost. It's not very Christmas Carol at all. It's just like very loosely based on that. But it's written very well, and I did enjoy this for the most part. It's just not one of those books that like ever stuck out to me really strongly, and I wouldn't say that you absolutely have to go and read it. I read other books from Sri Lanka that I enjoyed more for my Reading Around the World challenge, but by no means did this like irritate me or annoy me in any way. I just think wasn't one of my favourites from the rest of this list, so that's why it's going to be kind of stuck at this point. Because next up we're talking about the most recent winner of the Booker Prize, which was 2024, and that was Orbital by Samantha Harvey. This one has been like very widely and like universally beloved, and unfortunately this one didn't actually work for me, and I think it was a difference of like expectations. I thought that this was going to be a sci-fi book. It's kind of described and pitched as a sci-fi. It's much more of a poetry book. Like that's the closest thing that I can say it is. It's these reflections on the universe from the perspective of these people who are on a space station flying around the world. But it doesn't have any sense of the characters. There's no characters, there's no plot. There's no kind of like central conflict or anything. It's not a book in the traditional sense of the word. It's very much slow, meditative and poetic, and there are beautiful lines throughout this book, but if you go in expecting a sci-fi, you're going to be sorely disappointed. It's like, it reads almost as like autobiographical, because like it does seem like the science is all like, it all checks out, at least from my perspective, but so there's not much sci-fi in there, if you know what I mean. It's not much fiction, but it is very beautiful for the most part. I don't know what the main point was, what, like, other than, you know, like nice messages about, you know, zooming out and we're all human and the planet, you know, things like that. But I'm just like, why, what was the main, what were we trying to get across here, you know? I just didn't quite like pull something away from this, but didn't hate it. It is beautiful. Not saying you shouldn't read it, but not one of my favourites. Next up, we're going all the way back to 2011, and the winner for that year was The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. This one I read a really, really long time ago, actually, so I can't remember that much about it, but I do remember enjoying it. This book is all about a man who is looking back on his life, and specifically kind of his teenage years, now that he is kind of a divorced man, and he's looking back and thinking that things were all like a certain way, but then maybe like memory was imperfect. And I mean, if I read this now, I would judge this a bit more harshly. I read it at the time and I enjoyed it. I like books that play on memory and recalling things and have a certain unreliable narrator, as you'll see from the rest of this list as well. I do enjoy that as a kind of thing to be explored within books. This is one that I would have to reread, but just purely based on my memory of it and like where I want to put it, I'm going to put this at spot number 4. Next up is a book that I also used to own, but I can't find it anymore, and I don't remember when I got rid of it. But this was the winner of in the year 2002, and it is The Life of Pi. This one just has such a like special place in my heart. It's one of those books that I read when I was really, really young, and just like was discovering how amazing reading could be, and how different stories and like storytelling, the things that you could be like able to do in a book. And this one has just like wiggled its way into my heart and brain and like stuck itself there. So this is a nostalgic rating, definitely, but I am putting this in spot number 3. This is the story all about a boy who, after a horrible shipwreck that separates him from his family, he ends up on this tiny little boat with a few animals and has to basically try and survive. I remember writing an essay about this book when I was like a young teen, so I feel like this just has a special place in my heart. I really, really love this book. I think if I'd read this for the first time now, I would rate it very, very differently. So this is going to be a nostalgia rating, but I do kind of want to reread this as well. But definitely very happy that this won the Booker Prize back in 2002. So the penultimate book that I want to talk about is from 2019. It's the winner of 2019, and that is Girl, Woman, Other. I absolutely loved this book when I read it, and I recommended it to so many people. And also at the time of reading this, I had not read many books that do anything like it, because in this book you are following 12 different characters across England, and then some are in America as well, but this is quite a like British based book as well. Another thing I liked about it as well is just how it was depicting the UK, and like when I was reading it as well, it felt like one of those books that was just so current. I think it's really, really hard to do because of the nature of publishing, but I just absolutely loved it. So you're following these 12 different characters across the UK and America, but they all kind of have a connection to each other. And there's a running thread throughout each of the stories, but they're kind of also within themselves unique stories, but then it kind of comes full circle at the end. It's just beautifully crafted. I enjoyed reading this so much. So this book I'm putting at spot number 2. And now we are finally at the top spot. Do you think you can guess what my top spot is going to be? It's in fact the oldest book on this list, the one that was published first out of all the ones that I've read, and it is my favourite, and it's actually one of my favourite books of all time, and that is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. I love this book so much. I read it last year or a couple of years ago and just felt so deeply in love immediately. Felt like one of those books to me that when you're reading it, you feel just like a sense of like comfort and like you're coming home almost. It's really hard to describe, but I just loved this book so much. I felt very, very connected to this book. This book is set in 1956 and you're following Stevens, who is a butler to this great house, and he is doing everything he can to be the best person he can at his job. But times are changing and these great houses aren't what they once were, and he basically decides to take a short holiday and then go and visit an old friend. So you are just following him throughout this story as he's recounting his career and also this current trip that he's on. I just love this book so much. I want to watch the movie as well, but I'm like worried about it. It's got this really fun, witty tone, but also just absolutely heartbreaking emotion to it. I loved Stevens from the first second I met him, and it's going to be one of my favourite Kazuo Ishiguro books ever as well. So this one is clearly at the top of my personal ranking. And if I'm ranking the best from the Booker with my personal best from the international Booker, this one's gonna win. So do with that what you will. This was a really, really fun video to film, and I want to say thank you so much to my Patreons for help making this channel possible, for helping me grow this community. I absolutely adore all of you. You're my favourite people on the planet. I really, really liked filming this video, although it was quite stressful doing rankings. I don't know why I put myself through this all the time. Let me know which ones you've read. Go and check out the full list for the Booker Prize and tell me what your ranking would be. If you've read 5, do your top 5. I really want to know. Tell me how similar it is from mine or how different. That's also very interesting and I'd love to know that. And tell me how wrong I am about all of these books as well, because I like hearing all of your opinions. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope that you've enjoyed, and if you have, then please remember to like this video because that really helps me out with the algorithm as well. And please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. There's always a link as well in the description if you do want to check out my Patreon. There is some extra content over there. We are currently voting for the book club book and country that we're going to be doing for June for the Reading Around the World book club, so that's very exciting. You can go over there and please vote. But other than that, I think that is everything that I wanted to say today, so thank you so much for watching this video and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye!